सुनता है सुनता है सुनता है सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी 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 सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी 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 सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी 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 गगन में आवाज हो रही झीनी 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 सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी 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 पहिले आए 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 पहिले आए नाद बिंदु से पीछे जमया पानी पानी हो जी पहिले आए नाद बिंदु से पीछे जमया पानी पानी हो जी सब घट पूरन पूर रहा है सब घट पूरन पूर रहा है अलख पुरुष निर्वाणी हो जी निर्वाणी हो जी सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी 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 वहाँ से आया पता लिखाया वहाँ से आया पता लिखाया तृष्णा तूने बुझाई बुझाई तृष्णा तूने बुझाई बुझाई अमृत छोड़ सो विषय को धावे अमृत छोड़ सो विषय को धावे उल्टी फांस फसानी हो जी फसानी हो जी सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी 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 कहे कबीर सुनो भाई साधो कहे कबीर सुनो भाई साधो जाए गम की बानी रे जाए गम की बानी रे दिन भर रे जो नजर भर देखे दिन भर रे जो नजर अजर अमर हो निशानी हो जी, निशानी हो जी। सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी, ज्ञानी 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 ज्ञानी। गगन में आवाज हो रही, झीनी 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 झीनी। सुनता है, सुनता है, सुनता है।
जय श्री गुरुदेव। On behalf of Academy of Comparative Philosophy and Religion, popularly known in Karnataka as Gurudev Ranade Mandir, I heartily welcome first all the students of education to this national seminar. Thereafter, I heartily welcome all the teachers, professors in the College of Education who have come here to represent them. ನಿಮಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ನಾನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. And delegates who have come from across the country from different universities, I am wholeheartedly welcome all the delegates present over here. The inaugural session, the inauguration is going to take place, and for inaugurating the national seminar, my very good friend, every dynamic Vice Chancellor of Rani Channamma University, who is a great literary figure, I wholeheartedly on behalf of you all welcome Professor C.M. Thyagraja sir. Along with him, the keynote address is going to be given by Professor N.S. Panneerselvam, who is former professor and head of Department of Philosophy, University of Madras, and right now he is General Secretary of Indian Philosophical Congress. Sir, welcome to the conference. ಅದರ ಕೂಡ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬರು ಬಹಳ ಹಿರಿಯರು ವೇದಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಉಪಸ್ಥಿತರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಪ್ರೊಬೆಬ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಪರಿಚಯ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸನ್ಮಾನ್ಯ ಬಿ.ಡಿ. ಜತ್ತಿ ಅವರ ಸುಪುತ್ರರು ಮತ್ತೆ ಬಸವ ಸಮಿತಿಯ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷರು ಆಗಿರುವಂಥ ಅರವಿಂದ್ ಜತ್ತಿ ಸರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾನು ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅರವಿಂದ್ ಜತ್ತಿ ಅವರು ಅವ್ರ ತಂದೆಯವರು, ಹಿಸ್ ಫಾದರ್ ಬಿ.ಡಿ. ಜತ್ತಿ, who had laid foundation stone to our headquarter building, Academy of Comparative Philosophy and Religion, in the year 1964, and he was also present along with S. Radhakrishnan, the President of India, when the headquarter building was inaugurated on 15/12/1965 at Belagavi. ಅದರಿಂದ ಅವರು ನನ್ನ ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಮತ್ತು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಬಹಳ ಪೂಜ್ಯನೀಯರು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಅವರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅದಲ್ಲದೆ ದ ಬಿಗ್ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಅರವಿಂದ್ ಜತ್ತಿ ಸರ್ ಈಸ್ that he compiled the Vachana Sahitya ಅವರು 25 ಭಾಷೆಗಳಿಗೆ ವಚನ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯವನ್ನು in 25 languages the vachana sahitya has been translated through him, and it was released in Delhi by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಕೂಡ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬರು ದ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಅರವಿಂದ್ ಜತ್ತಿ ಅವರು ಇವತ್ತು ಮೊದಲನೆಯ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಲೆಕ್ಚರನ್ನು ಕೊಡೋರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಸಂತರು ಮತ್ತು ಅವರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಚಿಂತನೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿರುವಂಥ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಆರ್ ಡಿ ರಾನಡೆ ಅವರ ಕುರಿತು ಅದು ಒಂದು. ಮತ್ತು ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಬಾಲಗಣಪತಿ ಅವರು. ಬಾಲಗಣಪತಿ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೂಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಫಿಲಾಸಫರ್ ಗೈಡ್ in organizing this particular national seminar, who is presently the head of the Department of Delhi, Department of Philosophy. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಅವರಿಗೂ ನಾನು ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. At very young age, Bal Ganpati has got a international recognition and across the globe he is moving. Hence I am always requesting him that मेरे को भी एक philosophy का degree दे दो भाई करके. ಬಾಲ್ ಗಣಪತಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅನದರ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಆನ್ ಡಯಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಆದಿತ್ಯ ಅಭ್ಯಂಕರ್, ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ, ಸಾವಿತ್ರಿಬಾಯಿ ಫುಲೆ ಪುಣೆ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ, ಪುಣೆ ಅವರು. ಹೂ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಆರ್ಡೆಂಟ್ ಫಾಲೋವರ್ ಆಫ್ ಗುರುದೇವ್ ರಾನಡೆ. ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಚೇರ್ಮನ್ರು ಅಶೋಕ್ ಪೋದ್ದಾರ್ ಸರ್, ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ಎ ವೆರಿ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ and very famous lawyer, civil lawyer, who is also my teacher and who is also companion of my Professor N.R. Deshpande. ಅವರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ನಾನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅದರ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿರುವಂಥ ಸುಮಾರು ಜನ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಗಳಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟೀಸ್, ಫ್ರಮ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಸಿಟೀಸ್, from Chanakya University, Pune University, Prayagraj University, Kashi Vidyapeeth, Bombay, Pune, Delhi, Odisha, Madras, ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದನೂ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕ್ಯಾಂಬ್ರಿಜ್ದಿಂದನೂ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಲಂಡನ್ದಿಂದ ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಮುಖಾಶಿ ಅವರು. ಅವರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. This conference is supported by Ministry of Culture, Union Ministry of Culture, sir. I really give very much heartful thanks to the Union Culture Minister, Shekhawat sir, who is very kind enough to support this particular conference, and he is going to come to Belgaum probably to release the complete works of Gurudev Ranade. ಅದು ಒಂದು. ಮತ್ತು ಈ ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸು the basic aim was not only to have philosophical discussions in this particular process. We tried our level best to include, it is confluence of philosophy, spirituality and religion. That is our aim, because in this particular conference, Arvind Jatti sir, Krishna Sambgaonkar sir, then one Swamiji, a great spiritual teacher from Ramakrishna Mission, Nityastanandji, and another one person, that is our Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, who is chairman of National Cultural Department. These are all non-philosophical persons. Adrinda, it would be a confluence of hardcore philosophers and also from Bhakti movement. That we tried our level best, and Krishna Sambgaonkar is especially going to present Bharuda. That is what I have requested him. He is going to present it tomorrow, Bharuda. Bharuda ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ನಾಳೆ ಕೇಳುವಿರಂತೆ. Who are followers of Gurudev Ranade knows what is Bharuda, and ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೂ ತುಂಬ ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಅರಳ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥ ನಾನು ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಪ್ರೀ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಎಸ್ ಎ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್, We had singing competition, Bhakti movement ಸಲುವಾಗಿ, ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್, ಎಲೋಕೇಶನ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಯೂತ್ ಫೆಸ್ಟಿವಲ್ ಥರ ಅದು ನಡೀತು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬ ವಿಜಯಿಗಳು ಆದರೂ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೆ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಾ, ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದದಿಂದ, ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ BEd ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಇದರ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ಉಪಯೋಗವನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಮಾತನ್ನು ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿ, ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳು ಇಷ್ಟಿರುತ್ತೆ.
Are we making this inquiry? From where this inquiry starts? ದಿಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ವೈರಿ ಆಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬಂದ್ವಿ, ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಟ್ತೀವಿ, ನಾನು ಬಂದದ್ದಾದರೂ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ, ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದಾದರೂ ಏನು, ಹೋಗೋದಾದರೂ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ, ಈ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಉತ್ತರವನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಇವರಿಂದ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇನ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೆಮಿನಲ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ರಾನಡೆ articulated through rigorous philosophy inquiry. In his seminal work Mysticism in India, he studied Indian mystics, many of them belonging to the Bhakti tradition, and placed their spiritual experiences in dialogue with Western mysticism. In doing so, he universalized Bhakti as a global spiritual phenomenon, showing that devotion, love and surrender are not emotional exercises but disciplined path to self-realization. What word is this? Self-realization. ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರೀತೀನಿ, ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರಿಯಲೈಸೇಷನ್. ಮನೇಲಿ ಅಮ್ಮ ಅಡುಗೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಅಡುಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರಿಯಲೈಸೇಷನ್. ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ದೇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೋ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೋ, ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಸಿಗಬೇಕು, ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರಿಯಲೈಸೇಷನ್. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ವರ್ಡ್, ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. ಆತ್ಮದ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ನಾವು. ಎವ್ರಿವನ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ದಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್, ಸೋಲ್. This Atma connects to Paramatma. Paramatma connection is your capacity. That is your self-realization. There is a book at Shivananda Ashram, Bliss Divine. ತಿರ್ಲೆ ಸರ್ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಪುಸ್ತಕ, ಹುಡುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಸರಿ ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಸಿಕ್ತು, ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣಾಶ್ರಮ ಮೈಸೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ರಿಮ್ಸೆಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಪೇಜ್ ತಿರುಗಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ 20-30 ದಿನಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಕಾಡುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ನೀನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ನನ್ನ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಏನು, ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ವೆನ್ ಯು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ದ ಪರ್ಪಸ್, ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಫರ್ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದಟ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು share with you in few minutes. In this context, it's heartening to note contemporary efforts that continue the Bhakti legacy of translating lived spiritual experience into accessible language. ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಭಾರತ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಹೇಬರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ 25 ಭಾಷೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರ ಇದು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲದ ಪುಣ್ಯ ಪುರುಷರು ನೋಡಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಗತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು ಜತ್ತಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ ಹೊಡಿಲೇಬೇಕು, ಸುಲಭ ಅಲ್ಲ. 25 ಭಾಷೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಶಕ್ತಿ, ತತ್ವದ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ. ಅದೇ ಥರ ಎ ನೋಟಬಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಇದೇ ಥರದ ದಾರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ಆಫೀಸರು ಬಿಜಾಪುರದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದರು, ಎಲಿಗಾರ್ ಅಂತ. ರಾಣಿ ಚನ್ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ವರ್ಷ ಆನರಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರೇಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತು. ಅದೊಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕ, ಮೈ ಮೀ ಈಸ್ ದಿ, ಟೈಟ್ಲ್ ನೋಡಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಮೈ, ಈ ಮೈಯ ಇದು ಬಾಡಿನಾ, ಮೀ ನಾನಾ, ಮೀ ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಾ, ದಿ ಅವನೆಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಮೈ ಮೀ ದಿ, TH ಈ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ದಿ ಮೈ, ಈ ಮೈ, ಮೀ ಆ ದೊಡ್ಡವನ ಜೊತೆ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗತ್ತಾ? ಸಮುದ್ರದ ಅಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏಳುವ ತೆರೆಗಳಂತೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಬದುಕು ಪ್ರತಿದಿನ ಚಿಮ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇವುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅರಿಷಡ್ ವರ್ಗಗಳು ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ತೇವೆ. ತುಂಬ ಜನ ಕಾಮ, ಕ್ರೋಧ, ಲೋಭ, ಮೋಹ, ಮದ, ಮತ್ಸರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಮರಿತೀನಿ, ನನ್ನ ಆತ್ಮ ಮರಿತೀನಿ, ಪರಮಾತ್ಮನ ನೆನಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ. ಕಷ್ಟ ಬಂದಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ರೌಂಡ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರಿಯಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ದ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇವನ್ ಟುಡೇ, ದ ಲಿಗೆಸಿ ಹಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಡ್. His life and literature continues to inspire the contemporary scholarship. ನನಗೆ ಭಾಳ ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಂತರು, ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠರು ಇವುಗಳನ್ನ ತರ್ಜುಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ, ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ತಾ, ಬೈ ಪ್ರಮೋಟಿಂಗ್ ಡೈಲಾಗ್, ಬಿಡದೆ ಬೈ ಡೈಲಾಗ್, ಪ್ಲೂರಾಲಿಸಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಚುವಲ್ ಡೆಪ್ತ್, ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಥಾಟ್ ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ರಿಲೆವೆಂಟ್ ಅಡ್ರೆಸಿಂಗ್ ಎಥಿಕಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಚಾಲೆಂಜಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್. ಇದು ಹೊಸ ಸಮಾಜ, ಇದು ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಇರೋ ಸಮಾಜ, ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಸಮಾಜ, ಹಾರ್ಟ್ಫುಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರೋ ಸಮಾಜ ಅಲ್ಲ ಇದು. ಯಾವ ಸಮಾಜ ಇದು? AI, ಸೂಪರ್ AI ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ 2030ಕ್ಕೆ ಸೂಪರ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್, ಏನು 5G ಆದಮೇಲೆ 6G, 7G, 8G, 10G ಬರುತ್ತೋ ಆ ಥರ ಇದು ಸೂಪರ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಹೋಗೋ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಹಾರ್ಟ್ಫುಲ್ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ? ಆತ್ಮದಲ್ಲಿ, ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ತುಂಬಿಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸೌಂದರ್ಯ ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ನಮಗೆ ಆ ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್? That's why one of the most striking aspects of Dr. Ranade's work is his emphasis on spiritual experience. ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಲ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಾಣ್ತೇವೆ. ಆ ನಂತರ ಈ ಪರಿಷಡ್ ವರ್ಗಗಳ ಪ್ರಯಾಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೋತು ಕೊನೆಗೆಲ್ಲೋ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇವೆ, ಅಯ್ಯಯ್ಯೋ ಏನೇನೋ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ನಾನು. Across, he consistently argued that ultimate concern of philosophy is not abstract speculation, but the transformation of the self. ನಿನ್ನೊಳಗಿರುವ ಆತ್ಮವನ್ನ ಶುದ್ಧಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದೇ, ಶುದ್ಧತೆ ದಾರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಗತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದೇ ಮನುಕುಲದ ಪ್ರಯಾಣ. This insight assumes renewed importance in today's hyper-connected, yet deeply restless and fractured world. ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಯಾಕೆ ಹಿಂಗಾಗಿದೆ? ಎಂತ ಪದ ಹೇಳಿದೆ? ಡೀಪ್ಲಿ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ಲೆಸ್. ಎಂಥ ಸಮಾಜ ನೋಡಿ, ಡೀಪ್ಲಿ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ಲೆಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫ್ರ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರ್ಡ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಪದ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದೆ? 1970 ಇಸ್ವಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಚಿಕ್ಕಮಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನೊಂದು ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲಲ್ಲಿ ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಸ್ಟಡಿನೇ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್, ಟೌನ್ ಬಾಯ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್. ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು, ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ದೇವನೇ ಲೋಕಪಾಲನೆ ತೇ ನಮೋಸ್ತು ನಮೋಸ್ತುತೆ. ನೀವು ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರ. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ದೂರದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾನ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಇತ್ತು. ನಾನು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, ರೈಮ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಫೈರ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಮೌಂಟೈನ್ ರನ್ ರನ್ ರನ್, ಫೈರ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಮೌಂಟೈನ್ ರನ್ ರನ್ ರನ್. ಇವತ್ತೇನಾಗಿದೆ? ಎಲ್ಲರ ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲೂ ಫೈರ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಮೌಂಟೈನ್. ಟ್ರಂಪ್ ಅವ್ರ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಫೈರ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಮೌಂಟೈನ್ ರನ್ ರನ್ ರನ್. ಈ ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಾಯಕರ ಆಟಗಳನ್ನ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಫೈರ್ ತುಂಬಿಕೊಂಡು ಟ್ರಾಫಿಕಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿದ್ದಿರೋರನ್ನ, ಜೀವನದ ಓಟದ ಸಂತೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋರನ್ನ ಎಂಥ ಫೈರ್ ತುಂಬಿಕೊಂಡು ಓಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ದೇವನೇ ಲೋಕಪಾಲನೆ ತೇ ನಮೋಸ್ತು ನಮೋಸ್ತು. ಎಷ್ಟು ಶಾಂತಿ ಇದೆ ನೋಡಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ತೊಂದರೆ ಬಂದಾಗ್ಲೂ ಭಗವಂತ ನಿನ್ ಪ್ರಸಾದನ ನೋಡೋ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿದೆ. ಆ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ನೋಡಿ ಹೇಗಿದೆ. ಅಪ್ಪ ನೀರೋದು ನನ್ಗೇನು ತೊಂದರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. You see how the connect happens. That's the beauty. The present generation is living in the age of rapid progress. ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದೇ ಭಾರತ್ ಸಾಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಗಂಟೆಗೆ 500 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ಹೋಗೋ ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಬೇಕು. ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಜಪಾನ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಬಂದೆ, ಒಂದು 20 ದಿನ ಆಯಿತು. ಜಪಾನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಅರಿಸ್ಟಾಟಲ್ದು ಒಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಸಿಕ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಓದೋಕೆ. ಅವಾಗ ಈ ಮಾತು ಜ್ಞಾಪಕಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂತು, ನಿಮಗೆ ಹಂಚ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಈ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ಗೆ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸಿಗೆ 3 ಥರದ ಜನ ಸಿಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಮೊದಲನೇ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಯಾವನು ಅಂದರೆ ಪೈಸಾ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ದುಡ್ಡು ಮಾಡೋದು ದುಡ್ಡು ಮಾಡೋದು ದುಡ್ಡು ಮಾಡೋದು. ಅವನು ಫೈರ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ದಿನ ಜೀವಮಾನ ಸಾಯೋವರೆಗೂ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿ, ದುಡ್ಡು ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ಆಯ್ತು ನಿಮಗೆ. ದುಡ್ಡು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಇದು ಮೊದಲನೇ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್. ಇವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಚ್ಚರವಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಜೀವನ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬರೀ ಇನ್ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಇನ್ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕೋ ಅಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿ ಪಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಬರೀ ಪೈಸಾ 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 ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೈಸಾ ಹೋತಾ ಹೈ ಜಿಂದಗಿ, ಕುಬಿಯತ್ ಕೈಸಾ ಹೋತಾ ಹೈ, बीपी ज्यादा होता है, 200 जाता है, 250 गोली होना चाहिए, is it not? And slowly, if you don't take strokes, alternative, why? पैसा 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 का सवाल जिंदगी. Second type of friends, we should be careful. Pleasure, 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 pleasure. How much? How long? How far? How much? How long? How far? ಅಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ದೇವ್ರ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚಿ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಮರ್ತೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಡೈವರ್ಸ್ ಕೇಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಕಣ್ಣಲ್ಲಿ ರಕ್ತ ಕಿತ್ತು ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅಮ್ಮ ಯಾಕೆ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ? ಆ ಹುಡುಗರು ಹೊಡೆದಾಡೋದು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಸಂಕಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ಹುಡುಗ ಹಿಂಗಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಅಪ್ಪ ಯಾಕೆ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ? ಯಾಕೆ? ಪ್ಲೆಷರ್ ಹಿಂದೆ ಬಿದ್ರು. ಸೊ ಪ್ಲೆಷರ್, ಕೀಪ್ ದಟ್ at a sufficient length and enjoy in a very simple way. Hathi, you have seen Hane? What it eats, how it lives. What a beautiful. So the second type of friends are pleasure friends. Pleasure is required, but know the Dig Lakshmana Rekha. But third type of friends are very difficult. They are, Maruti Jirle sir has brought all of them here. They are the friends for principles. These principles, I mean friends, how many friends that you, I mean show your friend, I will tell. What I show me your 5 friends, I will tell you whom you are, what you are. Whatever that you are following because of your friends. Just tell 5 friends. Who are your 5 friends that you want to introduce? In my life, your life, that you are the sum product of 5 friends, because these 5 friends have influence because they have principles. Choose these principles. these principles are going to make you a self. The self matters because present generation is living in the ಬಹಳ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ದಿನವನ್ನು 3 ದಿನಗಳನ್ನು ಆತ್ಮೀಯರು, ಧರ್ಮಬಿಂದುಗಳು, ತತ್ವ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ, ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಸಂಪೂರ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ರಾನಡೆಯವರ ವಿಚಾರಧಾರೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಬದುಕಿ ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮಾರುತಿ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯವರಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತಾ, ಬಹುಶಃ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಗಿಫ್ಟ್ನ ಇವತ್ತು ತಾವು ಬೆಳಗಾಂನಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಂಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂದಿನ 50 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ನಾಗರಿಕತೆಯನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ BEd ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು, ಅಧ್ಯಾಪಕರಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ರಾಣಿ ಚೆನ್ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯ ನಿಮಗೆ ಆಭಾರಿಯಾಗಿದೆ. ನಿಮಗೆ ನಾನು ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಎತ್ತಣ ಮಾಮರ ಎತ್ತಣ ಕೋಗಿಲೆ BD ಜತ್ತಿ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದರು, ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಇವತ್ತು ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಸಂತೋಷ ಏನಾದ್ರು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಂತ ಬಂದಾಗ ದೇವ್ರು ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಹೆಸರು ಶ್ರೀ ಅರವಿಂದ್ ಜತ್ತಿ ಅವರು. ಅರವಿಂದ್ ಜತ್ತಿ ಅವರ ಕಾರ್ಯ, ಸಾಧನೆ, ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಅರ್ಪಣೆಯಾಗಿದೆ. ಅದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಒಂದು ಮಹತ್ವದ ಸ್ಥಾನವನ್ನು ಪಡೆದಿದೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಅವರ ಸನ್ನಿಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ, ಅವರ ಸಾನ್ನಿಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸಮಯಗಳು ನಮ್ಮ ಬದುಕಿನ ಅಮೂಲ್ಯ ಸಮಯ ಅಂತ ಭಾವಿಸಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಗೌರವವನ್ನು ಸಮರ್ಪಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಮಡ್ರಾಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ತತ್ವಶಾಸ್ತ್ರದ ಒಂದು ಚಿಂತನೆ ಆಳ ಆ ತುದಿಯಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಇತ್ತು. ಮಡ್ರಾಸ್, ಕಲ್ಕತ್ತಾ, ಮುಂಬೈ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆನ್ಸಿಗಳ ಜೊತೆ ಅನಾದಿ ಕಾಲದಿಂದನೂ ಕೂಡ ಇದೆ. ಪನ್ನೀರ್ಸೆಲ್ವಂ ಅವರ ಹೆಸರು ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಈ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ತತ್ವಜ್ಞಾನಿಗಳಾಗಿ, ತತ್ವಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ಪ್ರಾಧ್ಯಾಪಕರಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಭಾರತದ ತತ್ವಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ನ ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟರಿಗಳಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಪನ್ನೀರ್ಸೆಲ್ವಂ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಎಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಗೌರವವನ್ನು ಸಮರ್ಪಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಐ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ Panneerselvam sir, please, I beg. I use the word I beg. ಜ್ಞಾನವನ್ನು ಯಾವತ್ತು ಭಿಕ್ಷೆ ಕೇಳಬೇಕು. ಆ ಗುರು ಹತ್ರ ಕೇಳಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಬೇಕಪ್ಪ ಇದು ಕೊಡು. ನಾನು ಯಾತಕ್ಕೆ ವೈ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಬೆಗ್ಗಿಂಗ್ ಯು ಸರ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ದೇ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಪೇಪರ್ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಎ ಅನ್ಫಾರ್ಚುನೇಟ್ scenario that our education system has dripped on our youngsters. In the course of lecture I will share that I want MOU and all BEd students. As I seen Dr. Battal madam here, so many my friends, that we wanted this BEd curriculum should be very strong. You are all the leaders of the society. You are all the leaders. For you, whatever you want, we want to give. We have MOU with ACPR. You have to make ACPR. Monthly, every BEd institution should come and stay and work on that. Please, please, please. Then only Rani Channamma University BEd students will be at a greater heights to lead mankind, not सिर्फ पेट का सवाल. आप लोग सोचते हैं सिर्फ है एक नौकरी, जिंदगी क्या है? एक नौकरी. ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಸಿಕ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಆಯಿತು, ಊಟ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಏನೋ ಜೀವನ, ನೀವೇನು ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಬಂದಾಗ ACPR ಮುಖ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಹೀಗೆ ವೇದಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಭಾವಪರವಶನಾಗಿ ಮಾತನಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರೋಕ್ತವಾಗಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಆದಿತ್ಯ ಅಭಯಂಕರ್ ಜಿ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್. ಬಾಲಗಣಪತಿ ಜಿ ಇಸ್ ಮೈ very, very personal, affable friend in my heart. Very senior and revered, Ashok Poddar sir, and all on the stage and in front of me, I see so many luminaries, commentators on philosophy, experts, scholars of great order, high order, practitioners is very important. Practitioners of philosophy are far and few in this age. In Karnataka, you may be surprised, only in Manipal, the subject philosophy is taught. No more it is in Mysore. Once upon a time, Mysore was very popular. Now in Manipal Higher Education Academy, of late I learnt 13 or...
Mysore, there is a department.
Yes sir, very good. I am very happy now. How it is going sir? Good?
Good.
Thank you very much. I am from Mysore University. I love it. My breath too. ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಸಂತೋಷ ಇದೆ, ಮೈಸೂರು ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಈ ರಾಣಿ ಚೆನ್ನಮ್ಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಾಕಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ವಿ ಕಮ್ ಟು ಯು ಸರ್. ಅಟ್ ದಿ ಸೇಮ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಮಣಿಪಾಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. 13-16 ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಮಣಿಪಾಲಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರ ಬರವಣಿಗೆಗಳು ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಮುಟ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಕೇಳ್ಪಟ್ಟೆ. 1-2-3 ಓದ್ದೆ ನಾನು. And also, after having seen all my friends here in the front and others, my young student friends and dearest ones, Today and the next 3 days, when I see this menu completely, I'm really, I want to praise Maruti sir and team for having made this wonderful, very wonderful, impossible menu. It is a knowledge feast which you will not get anywhere, such that you cannot bring these scholars. Even university cannot invite all these scholars, will not get the contact. You can clap, because next 3 days, what is the flow that you are going to gain? If you are very serious, you will understand it. When morning Srushti, when Srushti started chanting, ಅವರು ಹೋಗಿ ಆ ಆರೋಹಣ ಅವರೋಹಣದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಆಲಾಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾಗ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಐಸ್, ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್, ಹೂ ಆಮ್ ಐ, ವೈ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಹಿಯರ್, ವೇರ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್, ವಾಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೈ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್. See the power of music. If you go with alap and close your eyes and start feeling, you will forget everyone, father, mother, brother, sister. Kya Malabar gold hai? Kya hai? Full, you will not be in this universe. That's the power of inward journey, the power of mind, the power of silence. My prayer to Almighty to bless. Swati, I have a question. Where is the first prize winner? Second prize itself is so sweet, so melodious. Kaisa hai first prize? I want to hear. Okay, went back. Okay, record is there anyway. Sometime that we will hear. Yeah. So when I start this morning, I'm very happy that it is my privilege to inaugurate this 3-day national conference on the life, literature and works of Gurudev, Dr. R.D. Ranade, in the context of comparative philosophies and religions of the world, organized by ACPR, which is in my heart. I congratulate ACPR for choosing a theme that's at once classical in its roots and contemporary in its relevance. In an age dominated by speed, screens and shrinking attention spans, when societies across the world are grappling with moral uncertainty, cultural fragmentation and existential anxiety, revisiting the life and thoughts of Gurudev Dr. R.D. Ranade is not merely an academic exercise, it is a civilizational necessity. It invites us to pause, reflect and look inward. ನನ್ನ B.Ed ಗೆಳೆಯರಿಗೆ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಯಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಕುಳಿತು ಕೇಳಿ ಆಸ್ವಾದಿಸಿ ಒಳಗೆಳೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳುವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂಡಲಿ. ಈ ತತ್ವದ ಬೀಜಗಳು ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಆಳವಾಗಿ ನಂತರ ಗಿಡವಾಗಿ ಮರವಾಗಿ ಬೆಳೆಯಲಿ ಎನ್ನುವ ಆಶಯ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರದ್ದು ಆಗಿದೆ. Gurudev Dr. Ranade was one of India's foremost philosophical scholars who made a lasting contribution to the study of comparative philosophy and religion. Deeply rooted in Indian spiritual traditions and equally conversant with the Western philosophical thought, he built meaningful intellectual bridges between East and West. Through his comparative approach, Dr. Ranade demonstrated that while philosophical traditions may differ in method, analytical in the West and experiential in the East, their ultimate quest remains the same truth, meaning and liberation. ಪಾಶ್ಚಾತ್ಯರ ವಸಾಹತುಶಾಹಿ ಕಲೋನಿಯಲ್ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತಗಳಿಂದ ದೇಸಿ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತವನ್ನು ತಂದ ಪುಣ್ಯಾತ್ಮರು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ರಾನಡೆಯವರು. Another significant dimension of Dr. Ranade's thought is the close affinity with Bhakti movement. ಅವರು ಭಕ್ತಿ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತದ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಚಳವಳಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅದರ ಜೊತೆ ಸೇರಿ ಭಾರತದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನು ಈ ನಮ್ಮ ದಾರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದವರು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ರಾನಡೆ. ಆಲ್ದೋ he was not a Bhakti saint, ಅವರು ಭಕ್ತಿಯ ಸಂತರಾಗಿಲ್ಲದಿದ್ದರೂ, in the traditional sense, his philosophy reflects the very essence of the Bhakti tradition, the primary inner experience. ಈ ಪದ ಹೇಗಿದೆ? ಇನ್ನರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್. ಅಮ್ಮ ಇನ್ನರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್, ಅಪ್ಪ ದೇವರೇ ಇನ್ನರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್. We can experience it, feel it. The power of calling, craving, crying for whom? You see, that is inner experience. Devotion. When calling, what is your level of devotion? Are you devoted? Very difficult. Every second mobile, WhatsApp messages, disturbing information. Where is devotion, friends? Devotion, humility and ethical transformation. So many have touched and transformed so many with their thoughts and ideas. We teachers today, are we in a position to touch, move and transform our youngsters? This is a question that all of us should pose. much like the Bhakti saints who challenge the ritualism, very, very important. These Bhakti saints challenge the ritualism and social hierarchies. Dr. Ranade emphasized direct spiritual realization over dogma and lived faith over formal observance. What the Bhakti movement expressed through poetry, music and social reform, Dr. Ranade, age of technological advancement, instant communication, ಒಂದು ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಕಳಿಸಿದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ಮೇಲಿಗೆ ಬಾಸಿಗೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು 2 ನಿಮಿಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಐ ಸೆಂಟ್ ಯು ಇನ್ ವೈ ಆರ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ ಇಟ್ 2 minutes ಬ್ಯಾಕ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಅನ್ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಟು ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್. ಗುರು ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಗುರು ದರ್ಶನ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಗುರು ಸಾಕ್ಷಾತ್ಕಾರ ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ಸಿದ್ದೇಶ್ವರ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ. Unlimited information, how much you are taking and adopting, that matters. Yet, paradoxically, we also witness a growing sense of alienation. Are you going to stay back with your parents? Many tell no. What's the modern definition of a joint family? Husband and wife living 10 years together. This is what is going to be next generation if India is not going to protect its roots. And if it is not going to lead the mankind once again, what is going to happen to the next generation, where mother is ordering Ola, food, that food, this food. What child will do? Amma, I will order for myself. What grandchild will do? Amma, I will do that. Where this technology is taking, I mean alienating from kitchen, from values. This alienation, lack of belongingness, connectedness is missing, belongingness and erosion of inner stability, especially among the youth. Today's youth are exposed to global ideas and cultures at an unprecedented scale, yet many struggle with direction and inner confidence. Despite academic degrees and digital connectivity, there is often a sense of emptiness, very unfortunate, impatience and ಡಿಸ್ಎಂಗೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಹುಡುಗರ ಕಾಯಿಲೆಗಳೇನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ತೊಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, MA PhD ಎಲ್ಲ, ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಪೇಪರ್ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ, ಒಳಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ದಿಸ್ ಇಂಪೇಷಿಯನ್ಸ್, ಆ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಕೂಡಲೇ ಏನೋ ಭಯಂಕರ, ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇಂಪೇಷಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಹೈ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಟುಡೇ ಇನ್ ಯೂತ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡಿಸ್ಎಂಗೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡು ಅಂದರೆ, ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯು ಸಿಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮೆಡಿಟೇಟ್? ನೋ, ಈ ಕ್ಯಾನಾಟ್ ಎಂಗೇಜ್. Can you sing? He cannot. He has only PhD. A degree without such, what is a degree? In earlier times, life challenges were undoubtedly severe. Even often more materially constrained. ಹಿಂದಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದರೂ ಈ ಥರ ಓಲಾ, ಊಬರು, ಗೂಗಲ್ ಪೇ ಇತ್ತಾ? ನಮ್ಮ ತಾತನ ಸಂಬಳ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ 20 ರೂಪಾಯಿ 30 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಇದ್ದು, ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಕಪ್ಪು ಸ್ವಿಚ್ಗಳು. ಬದುಕೆಷ್ಟು ಶಾಂತಿ ಇತ್ತು, ಎಷ್ಟು ಶಾಂತಿ ಇತ್ತು. ಆದರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಇಷ್ಟು ಬಂದಾಗಲೂ ಯಾಕೆ ಶಾಂತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ? I mean, here individuals and communities today have anchored shared values, spiritual discipline and a sense of purpose and strongly reinforced traditions such as Bhakti movement. Challenges were addressed. ಮೊದಲು ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನದ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆಗಳು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಆ ಸರಸ್ವತಿ ಫೋಟೋನ ವಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಮನೇಲಿ ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮುಂದಿನ ವಾರ ಪಕ್ಕದ ರೋಡಿಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಭಕ್ತಿ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್. Challenges were addressed with patience, perseverance and collective responsibility. Today problems are expected to be solved instantly. ಮೊದಲು ಅವ್ರು ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಈಗ ಸಡನ್ ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅವರಿಗೆ. Sometimes without reflection and responsibility. The virtues of dedication, sincerity, long-term commitment appear to be losing ground to convenience and instant gratification. Dr. Ranade's understanding of spiritualism offers a corrective to this imbalance. Modern consumerism, ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದಿ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಡ್, 2 ಪಕ್ಷಿಗಳು ಮರದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೂತಿದೆ. ಒಂದು ಪಕ್ಷಿ ತಿಂತಾ ಇದೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪಕ್ಷಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವರ್, ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಡ್. ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರಿಸಮ್ ಆಗಿ ತಿಂತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಬೇಕಾದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿನೇ ತಗೊಂಡು ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸಿ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಕಾದ ಮೇಲೆ ಆ ಕಡೆ ನೋಡೋಕೆ ಶುರು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನೋಡಿ ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಜೀವನ ನೋಡಿ. ಇದು ಎಲಿವೇಟ್ ಆಗೋದು ಯಾವಾಗ? ಇದು ಸಾಕಾಗಬೇಕು. ಸಾಕಾಗೋತ್ತಿಗೆ 80 ವರ್ಷ 90 ವರ್ಷ ಆದ್ರೆ ಏನು ನೋಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ? ಅದೇ 25 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕಾದ್ರೆ ತಿನ್ನುವ ಗಮನವನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆಯುವ ಕಡೆ ಗಮನ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಡ್, ಅವನ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ದೇವರೇ ಅಂತ. ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವರ್ ಟು ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಡ್, ದಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ಸ್. Dr. Ranade's understanding moved in this path. As a Vice Chancellor, I firmly believe that integrating philosophy, spirituality and comparative studies in higher education can help to address many contemporary challenges ranging from mental health, health concerns among youth to growing intolerance in society. Comparative philosophy and religion play a vital role in this regard. I mean, this ACPR is helping young minds to move beyond narrow identities, cultivate respect for pluralism and recognize that different paths can lead to the same quest for truth, harmony and human dignity. ನಮ್ಮ ಬೆಳಗಾವಿಯಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಅದೃಷ್ಟವಂತರು ಅಂದರೆ ಇದು ಈ ಥರದ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲವೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು. ಎಂಥ ಪುಣ್ಯಾತ್ಮರಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಎಂಥ ಅದೃಷ್ಟವಂತರು ನಾವಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನೋಡಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರ ಬೆಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ, ಆ ಗೊರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದಿ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ಡ್ಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ. Spiritual thought as articulated by thinkers like Dr. Ranade and embodied in Bhakti tradition teaches self-reflection, restraint, empathy and resilience. It reminds us that success without values is hollow and knowledge without wisdom can be dangerous. Universities therefore must function not only as centers of education and development but also as a spaces for ethical reasoning and spiritual inquiry. We must prepare students not just for careers but for responsible citizenry and meaningful lives. Conferences such as this serves as intellectual sanctuaries where ideas are debated with depth, humility and openness. Quality is much needed in public discourse today. I am confident that over the next 3 days, this conference will generate meaningful discussion on Dr. Ranade's contribution to stimulate comparative perspectives and inspire scholars and students alike to reconnect philosophy with lived experience. I congratulate the Academy, ACPR, for this scholarly initiative and thank all the speakers, resource persons, scholars and delegates who have travelled from different parts of the country to enrich this dialogue. May these deliberations of this conference rekindle our collective commitment to truth, wisdom and spiritual integrity and guide us towards clarity of thought, strength of character and depth of purpose in the true spirit of Gurudev Dr. R.D. Ranade and in the enduring legacy of the Bhakti tradition. ಮಾತು ಮುಗಿಸುವ ಮುನ್ನ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ನಮ್ಮ ತಪ್ಪುಗಳು ಅನಂತ, ಕ್ಷಮಿಸು ಭಗವಂತ, ನಮ್ಮ ತಪ್ಪುಗಳು ಅನಂತ ಕೋಟಿ ಕೋಟಿ, ನಿನ್ನ ಸೈರಣೆ ಲೆಕ್ಕವಿಲ್ಲದಷ್ಟಯ್ಯ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಸ್ಮರಿಸುತ್ತಾ 5 ಮುತ್ತುಗಳನ್ನು ನಿಮಗೆ ನೀಡಿ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ವಿರಮಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ. ನನಗೆ ಸದಾ ಮನ ಮುಟ್ಟುವ ಪತೇಯಂ ತತ್ಸು, ನೀವು ಸದಾ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯವರ ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆ, ಸತ್ಸಂಗದ ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳಿಗೆ ಬೀಳುವಂತಾಗಲಿ. ಯಥೋ ಧರ್ಮಸ್ ತಥೋ ಜಯ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಧರ್ಮ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆಯೋ ಅಂತಹ ಜಯವೇ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಪ್ತಿಯಾಗ್ತದೆ. 3ನೇದು ವಿವೇಕ ಜಾಗೃತಃ, ಸದಾ ವಿವೇಕ ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಗೃತವಾಗಿರಲಿ. ಜ್ಞಾನಂ ಅತ್ಯುತ್ತಮಂ ಪರಮೋಚ್ಚಮಂ, ಜ್ಞಾನವನ್ನು ಏನು ಪಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಆ ಜ್ಞಾನನೇ ಅತ್ಯುತ್ತಮ, ಮತ್ತಿನ್ಯಾವುದು ಉತ್ತಮ ಇರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಜೀವನದ ಕೊನೆಯ ಕ್ಷಣದವರೆಗೂ ನೀನು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಬದುಕ್ತಾ ಇದೇ ನಿನ್ನ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಅಂತ ಪರಮೋಚ್ಚಮಂ. ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ, ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಯಿಂದ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನಾಡಿ ನನಗೆ ಆಮಂತ್ರಣವನ್ನು ನೀಡಿ ಹಿರಿಯರಿದ್ದರೂ ನನಗೆ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಬೇಡ ಸರ್ ಜಿರ್ಲೆ ಅವರೇ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ಕರೆಸ್ತೇನೆ, ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ, ತ್ಯಾಗರಾಜ್ ಸರ್ ನೀವೇ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಔದಾರ್ಯವನ್ನು ಸದಾ ತೋರುವ ACPR ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆ ಸಾಹೇಬರಿಗೆ, ಭಟ್ರಿಗೆ, ಸ್ವಾತಿಯವರಂತೂ ಒಳಗೆ ತುಂಬಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ತುಂಬ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸ್ವಾತಿಯವರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನೆನಪು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಹಿರಿಯರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ, ಬೆಳಗಾವಿ ನನ್ನ ಹೋದ ಜನ್ಮದ ಕೆಲವು ಪುಣ್ಯಗಳ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನೇನೋ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಇದು ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸದಾ ಜಾಗೃತವಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಂಥ ಪುಣ್ಯ ಭೂಮಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇವೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟ ಭಗವಂತನಿಗೆ, ಇಂಥ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಯನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ 4 ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅನುಭವವನ್ನು ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕರುಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಆ ಪ್ರಭುವಿಗೆ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ, ಈ ಸೆಲ್ಫಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಚೂರಾದರೂ ಬೇರೆಯ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದನ್ನು ಕರುಣಿಸು ಭಗವಂತ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನನ್ನ ಮಾತು ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
Most revered and respected Professor Thyagraja, who just now delivered the inaugural address, a wonderful inaugural address, I would say. I could follow your Kannada also, so fascinating. And Professor Balganpati, my good friend, Professor Advocate Maruti Zirali, Professor Aditya Ji, Shri Ashok, Shri Arvind Jatti, sir, my philosophical colleagues who have come from different parts of the country, my dear students, friends and colleagues. At the outset, I am grateful to the ACPR for giving me this nice opportunity of meeting all of you. This soil is a spiritual soil because it is from here we could hear the great sayings of Gurudev Ranade. In the inaugural address, our Honorable Vice Chancellor has said that this place should have philosophy. And he has also suggested that we should have a MOU with the Indian Philosophical Congress and this university so that philosophy could be introduced. Sir, I assure you that with the cooperation of my colleagues who are here, philosophy professors, we definitely will make an effort in this direction, and very soon a course on philosophy would be introduced in your university. We'll make effort in this direction. In fact, the Indian Philosophical Congress, I should tell, that in the last Congress, which was a centenary year, which was celebrated in IIT Mumbai, we had a special session on Gurudev Ranade's philosophy. That was the first time in Indian Philosophical Congress a parallel session was introduced because of the effort taken by our advocate Zirali sir, who contacted me, and he was very keen that during this centenary year we should have a parallel session on the contributions of Gurudev. And also I must say a few words about this seminar. When this seminar was mooted by Zirali sir and then by Subramania Bhatt, we thought that we should have a serious seminar. So from the beginning, we have been planning to organize it in a grand way by inviting scholars who have really contributed to philosophical discourse. So that's why you can see the galaxy of philosophers who have contributed substantially. And also, you would have seen the brochure which we have prepared, wherein we accommodated different dimensions of Gurudev. Especially we have introduced his main concept, namely rational mysticism, which is something very unique and which is very, very interesting, which I shall be discussing with you now. And also, we have introduced concepts like tradition and modernity. And also, where do we situate Ranade's philosophy in the 20th century? These are some of the themes, sub-themes, which we thought we should include in the brochure. So, because of the efforts taken by Zirali and others, we are able to meet here. And this seminar, I am sure, it is planned in a very beautiful way. And the scholars have taken different dimensions. I have gone through all the papers as well as the abstracts in advance, and all of them have given a proper methodological understanding of Gurudev. And in fact, we are very, very stubborn in not allowing papers or abstracts which do not say anything about Ranade. We wrote to them saying that this does not speak about the contribution of Gurudev, So you write on him, otherwise please don't come. So we want to have a very neat seminar in the sense that we have to talk about the contributions made by Gurudev so that youngsters especially, and young philosophers, young teachers I mean, they can also understand the contribution made by Gurudev. Now this center is something very unique and special, I should tell, because ACPR, the Academy of Comparative Philosophy and Religion, this is something very important. The comparative philosophy, the term comparative philosophy, though it is in vogue in philosophy, it was popularized, I would say, by Gurudev Ranade. Because in the 20th century, there are scholars who talk about comparative philosophy. Comparative philosophy, which is otherwise known as intercultural philosophy, is very much familiar in the 20th century, wherein we make a comparison of the Indian and Western. We also talk about Chinese philosophy and Indian philosophy, African philosophy, Japanese philosophy, wherein we try to show some parallels between Indian and Western. In fact, in modern day, we come across thinkers like B.K. Matilal, J.N. Mohanty, P.T. Raju, and then Radhakrishnan. These are some of the scholars who have contributed substantially for comparative philosophy. But what is interesting is, in 1940s, Gurudev Ranade has introduced this concept in a novel way, so that in many of his writings you can see the culmination of both Indian and Western. That is the reason why he has named this center as Academy of Comparative Philosophy and Religion. So this center has a lot of contributions for the development of philosophy, especially in the area of mysticism and the Upanishadic philosophy. And I have noted down some of the important points which I would like to place before you. In the contemporary philosophical discourse, I come across two important books. One edited by Nalini Bhushan, who has written extensively on Ranade. And also Professor Kovard in his edited work, wherein we find the article, lengthy article written by J.G. Arapura, a Canadian philosopher. Both of these contain the lengthy discourse on Ranade's philosophy. Friends, I must tell you here that Gurudev Ranade is a neglected philosopher in India. In fact, when I was telling somebody in Chennai that I am going for a seminar on Ranade, he was asking, who is Ranade? So unfortunately, the contribution of Ranade has not reached the young philosophers. We are talking about modern philosophers. That's fine. But Ranade was the pioneer in this movement. He was the first one, I should say, to talk about the comparative philosophy, wherein he could see the synthesis between Indian and Western. And while talking about the significance of comparative philosophy, he makes this statement. He says that a correlation between Indian and Western is very much essential, and also it is the need of the hour. He says that philosophy, if at all it has to improve or develop, then it should talk about the synthesis between Indian and Western. So this he writes in 1940s, you can imagine. One of his close associates is B.R. Kulkarni. He was one who stayed with him for a very long time. He was his disciple to some extent, I can say, if I'm right? He talks about how Ranade has a special approach towards the conception of God. Of course, all philosophers, if he's a metaphysical philosopher, he would talk about God, no doubt. But Kulkarni ji says that our Gurudev has a concern, or his the nucleus of his philosophy is God realization. In fact, he says God realization or understanding the notion of God is the elan vital. This is a term used by all of us know Henry Bergson. He says it is elan vital of Gurudev, that is speaking about God. And also in Ranade's philosophy, friends, there are different dimensions. You can see the metaphysical aspect, you can see the epistemological aspect, ethical aspect, and religious aspect. But all these aspects converge in one point, that is God realization. So God realization, he says, is not an event, but a process. And he says, it is by a progressive process you can understand God realization. It is not something static, or it is not something which comes immediately. By progression you can understand the significance also of God. And also another contribution of Gurudev is he talks about what is known as the doctrine of approximation. That is, he says, stage by stage, by procedure, you can understand, you can come approximate to God. This also is a unique contribution. So the perpetual progress is something which is remarkable in the writings of Gurudev, which I don't find in any of the contemporary philosophers' approach. And he has written one beautiful article. Of course, many articles are there. One article I would like to quote because this article has a special significance. Philosophy of the Spirit is the title of the article. And this was the presidential address, right, of the 13th session of Indian Philosophical Congress held in the year 1937, December, in Nagpur, wherein he shows how the contemporary discoveries which we find in modern science could be adopted or could be seen or is visible in Indian philosophical tradition. In fact, he has developed a very beautiful concept in this article, very remarkable article. He has coined a word, new word which is coined is spiriton. We heard the word spirit, but he has developed the concept spiriton. This word actually is somewhat similar to Saint Jnaneshwar understanding. Something which is similar to that he has developed spiriton. And he says how, whether it is neurology or physics or chemistry, all this could be seen in the philosophy of spirit. So this is a very remarkable philosophical understanding which he has developed. And also, friends, I should tell you that this is a phrase which is very fascinating. When I read this, I was reminded of our government, how our government is a spiritualistic government. He says in one place, our politics cannot succeed without a spiritual basis. This is a very remarkable statement, and I feel that this statement has a special significance at the present juncture. Because no, the government has to be must have a spiritual basis. This is something very remarkable in his ideas. And also, he says, non-violence as well as truth are the flowers which has come from the root, namely the spirit. This is also a very beautiful concept. And also, he talks of the universal brotherhood, which he says is possible through the understanding of the other. Friends, in the 20th century or in the 21st century, we are talking about the notion of other. Because in the Western philosophical discourse, the concept of other is very important. But long back in 1940s, our Gurudev has spoken about the concept of the other, and he said how the other could be incorporated into myself. This is also a remarkable approach which he has made. And also, in his philosophical discourse, as I said in the beginning, you can see the synthesis of philosophy and religion. And he says, the uniqueness of Indian philosophy. What is the uniqueness of Indian philosophy? He says, it is not only philosophy, but also religion. He says, Indian philosophy contains both philosophy and religion. And he says, the relation between philosophy and religion is somewhat like this. It is the relation between form and matter. One cannot exist without the other. And also, he says that both can help each other, in the sense that philosophy can help religion and religion also can be helped by philosophy. This is also very unique, and in this way he could answer some of the Westerners' criticism, because most of the time Westerners criticize Indian philosophy by saying it is only religion, it has nothing to do with philosophy. But here is a thinker who could show the need for synthesizing both philosophy and religion. This is also, I would say, is a unique contribution of Gurudev. And also I feel that this philosophy, I would just put it in one line, it is a philosophy of reconciliation. This concept of reconciliation is very important because he could reconcile both Indian and Western. Friends, I would like to show how he could compare Shankara with Bradley, for example. All this approach now we see in our Western and Indian literature, but long back it is Gurudev who has shown the link between philosophy and religion, and also in this reconstruction of philosophy, reconciliation of philosophy, he could combine both both Indian and Western philosophical tradition. And also he said that there should be a synthesis between tradition and modernity. For this reason only we could, in the sub-theme you can see the tradition and modernity in Ranade's philosophy, because he's the one who has synthesized both tradition. He has got a very high regard for the tradition. And also all of us know how to distinguish between tradition and orthodoxy. In orthodoxy there is something which is very rigid. You can't make change in the orthodoxy. But tradition, there is always a change. Tradition allows you to make certain amendments or changes. So this he has anticipated perhaps long back in his writing. That is the reason why we call him as a philosopher who could synthesize both tradition and modernity. And also he is a mystic. This is really remarkable. And of course we come across many mystical thinkers. There are many who wrote on mysticism. For example, we come across Radhakrishnan, who wrote extensively on religious experience as well as mystical experience. And in Radhakrishnan's writings, you can see the distinction between mystical experience and religious experience. In Western tradition, we come across thinkers like Evelyn Underhill and William James, who wrote on mystical experience, religious experience, and he has of course criticized the methodology which are used in religious experience. So there are scholars, both Indian and Western, who wrote on mystical experience. But what is unique in our Gurudev is that he has developed a very beautiful concept called rational mysticism. This is really remarkable. I was astonished when I read the term first time, rational mysticism. Because I was asking myself this question, can mysticism be rational? Right? Because mysticism, always we say we have been taught like this. Mysticism, we come out with certain characteristics of mysticism. We say it is experience, subjective experience. It is something which cannot be revealed to others. It is one's own experience which cannot be written by words or language. All that is a notion which we receive from our teachers. But here is a thinker who talks about what is known as rational mysticism. What is this rational mysticism? Can there be reason in that? He says reason also plays a dominant role in mysticism, but at the same time is very specific in saying that the rationality has its own limitation. He says this is an intuitive experience. This is what anubhava, inner anubhava. I'll quote some of his beautiful phrases just now. And he says, in his writing you can see how one can synthesize Spinoza with Shankara, Kant with Bhagavad Gita. Normally this is a very familiar topic which is discussed in Indian and Western philosophical discussion, that is Kant and Bhagavad Gita. We are very much familiar with that. But we come across a thinker who talks about Spinoza and Shankara, Bradley and Shankara, and also he talks about Ramanuja and other thinkers of the West, St. Bonaventure and others. So he is the one who first could establish a link between Indian and Western. And I would like to quote his statement here. In 1912, in the journal Modern Review, published in the September issue 1912, he says as follows: it is only when our philosophy is exhibited in modern garb that the world will come to know the worth of Indian philosophy. If at all Indian philosophy, the significance of Indian philosophy should be known to the West, then we should be in a position to incorporate, or we should understand the Western philosophical discourse. In fact, in the 20th century, there are scholars, thinkers like Jayan Mohanty, for example. He said, this is a high time that both Indian and Western philosophers have a dialogue. This is what we need now, because we cannot have any exclusive philosophy. It is a need of the hour to have a dialogue with the West, and West also, this is very important, the West also should have a dialogue with the Indian philosophy or Eastern philosophy. This is which need of the hour. But you can imagine, in the year 1912, Gurudev writes like this. And also, he had some vision, the mystical vision, which I just now point out. He had the prophetic vision in the year 1940 and 1942. 2 times he had the mystical vision. We calls it as a prophetic vision. And also, cosmic, can I take another 5 minutes? Can I do a time? Because there are other speakers, I don't want to intrude into their time. So, while talking about mystical experience, he said he had the prophetic vision twice, in the year 1940 and 1942. And then he also talks about his cosmic vision he had. He says he had a sublime vision of cosmic regeneration. This is how he represents that his mystical vision, that which he calls cosmic vision. Then also he talks about ecstatic vision, otherwise blissfulness, which he had in the year 1944 on 17th April. He says these 3 visions, from these 3 visions, one can understand the special significance of the mysticism. So he was in a state of God intoxication. This is a term used by Professor Kulkarni. He said he had the state of God intoxication. This is something very beautiful phrase. And he says there is a complete assimilation of bliss. Then you merge with God entirely. This is, I always consider this with the Advaitic vision, where the individual self is lost and the individual self merges with that of the Supreme. So this is something really remarkable. And also, some of his books I would like to mention. I'll just take a few minutes and then stop. His well-known book is, all of us know, wherein he talked about the philosophy of the Upanishads. I would consider him as a great acharya like Shankara, Ramanuja and Madhva. These are the great acharyas all of us know, who gave 3 kinds of interpretation for the Prasthanatrayas. And of course, Radhakrishna also could be, Dr. S. Radhakrishna also could be considered as an acharya, because he also wrote commentaries on Brahma Sutra, Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. But what is significant in Ranade is, he also wrote commentaries or exposition, I would say exposition of the Prasthanatraya. For example, the philosophy of the Upanishads, he has had a detailed discussion. He has written on Upanishads. And also, his second very interesting book is the Bhagavad Gita as the philosophy of God realization. So, Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, and also another very interesting book, Vedanta as the culmination of Indian thought. So, in all these 3 books, you can see how he has dealt with the Prasthanatraya, the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and the Brahma Sutras. But what is interesting is that in these 3 expositions, he has given a different dimension. In all these 3 books, you can see how you can compare, or he sees a comparative methodology which could be attempted in both Indian and Western tradition. This is he's an acharya who is of a different mode of understanding. he is not fully following either Shankara, Ramanuja, because he has got a very high regard for both Shankara and Ramanuja and Madhva. So he developed his own methodology for understanding the Prasthanatraya. And he says his philosophical discourse can be summed up in one short sentence. He says that Vedanta is a synthesis of both idealistic and spiritualistic philosophy. This is his greatest contribution. And also, one can see how his approach towards Marathi saints, he wrote extensively on Marathi saints, wherein he could see how the Marathi saints have given a new methodology for understanding mysticism. And also, he wrote on Hindi and Canadian Kannadiga saints, wherein he also shows the methodology which is needed for mystical experience. So let me just take 2 minutes and then conclude. I said he has talked about rational mysticism. With that I'll conclude. What is the uniqueness of this rational mysticism? He says rational mysticism is not a contradiction but a truism, because normally when we say reason and faith, they will not go together. So people would say that is a contradiction in terms. But our Gurudev says that rational mysticism is not a contradiction but a truism. And one can see how in his well-known book, The Philosophy of the Upanishads, there is mysticism which he has elaborated in a beautiful way so that each and every individual can understand the significance of mysticism. And also he says the rational mysticism is a critique of intuition. Now, just now I said that it is intuitive experience. I said it is anubhava, one's own anubhava. But at the same time, he also evaluates, this is very important, he evaluates the significance of the intuitive experience, and he says that both reason and intuition are necessary, or both are necessary tools for understanding the mysticism. And also he says, I am quoting him, follow the original independent text with the proper interpretation. This also, see, this statement may look very, very simple, but it has lot of implication. When he says go to the originals and see the proper interpretation, because sometimes we try to interpret the scripture in a wrong way. That creates a problem. And because that is the reason why, hermeneutics is a new methodology in philosophy. I'm telling this for the sake of non-philosophy students here. That is interpretation, that hermeneutics means interpretation. So he says, go to the originals, read the originals and try to see the original interpretation or give the original interpretation, which can accommodate the text. This is very important. Because when I am interpreting, for example, Advaita Siddhi, I cannot give a Vishishtadvaidik interpretation. So the text has to be seen in the particular context only. And this has been anticipated by Gurudev long back by saying that the original independent text has to be seen in the way in which tradition has given a space for us. Because tradition allows interpretation, but it has to be within the rules and regulations. That is the reason it is said that if you violate that, then we are doing what is known as a hermeneutic violence to the text. For want of time, I am not entering into that. So mysticism, he says, is a culmination of the Upanishadic philosophy. He says, Upanishadic philosophy is the highest philosophy which talks about not only mysticism, but it gives, it explains the inner core of Indian spirit. So with this, I would like to conclude by saying that this mystical experience has got a special place in the methodology of Indian as well as Western philosophical schools. Many of the Western scholars think that rational mysticism has got certain criticisms, but at the same time, one cannot neglect, one cannot simply say it is one's own anubhava. one cannot simply say that there is no reason in it. That's the reason why Gurudev has talked about rational mysticism, the reason which can be seen in rational mysticism. So also, to one more point I'll stop. He was basically trained by Allahabad University. From Allahabad we have got 3 colleagues who have come to attend the seminar. Allahabad is a very nice place, and it is from this place he has developed his philosophical ideas. In fact, he wrote The Evolution of My Thought, which is like autobiography, wherein he explains the significance of Allahabad University and how his ideas have progressed. And he says in one place, I am much indebted to the opportunities which I have had at the Allahabad University to widen my philosophical horizon during the last few years of my stay there. These years have opened out a new intellectual vista before me, enabling me to define more accurately to myself my own position in philosophy from the side of contemporary developments in metaphysics, ethics, psychology, and religion. One more point I want to take. That is, though in philosophy we talk about metaphysics, because when Gurudev talks about God, man, and world, one can claim that he is a metaphysical thinker. Of course, he is a metaphysical thinker, but in his writings, epistemology plays a very important role. In fact, he argues that epistemologically also, we can prove the existence of God. This is something very interesting, and is a well-known book which was published in 1926, a century ago, a constructive survey of Upanishadic philosophy, wherein he talks about the epistemological significance of self-consciousness. Our Vice Chancellor has been talking about this consciousness, self-consciousness, and he says epistemologically also one can prove the existence of self-consciousness. So I have got a lot of things to say, but for want of time I close, and I would like to say, this is my last word, and he approaches the notion of ultimate reality from 3 standpoints: the cosmological standpoint, theological standpoint, and psychological standpoint. Normally, philosophers approach the problem both from the cosmological as well as theological. But here is a thinker who could give a psychological approach also towards philosophical concepts, and while discussing his discourse on self-realization or self-knowledge is something really remarkable, and it has got a lot of implication to the present day world. And when we are talking about phenomenology and other discourses, one can think of his way of approaching the concept of Turiya. He examines Mandukya Upanishads, for example, especially analyzes Gaudapada's Karika, and shows how Turiya has got the application of what is known as pure consciousness. And many modern scholars like Jayan Mohanty, Professor R. Balasubramanian and others, they are trying to show how this Turiya or this pure consciousness transcends the phenomenology of the West. And long back this has been anticipated by our Gurudev. So with this, I would like to close, and I thank you very much for giving me this nice opportunity of sharing some of my views with you. Thank you.
Sharanam Sharanarthi. Today's unique program, which I had never seen in my last 78 years, for the first time, such an interesting subject is being discussed on spirituality. Something unique this is. Of course, I have been associated with many organizations. I am working under almost 15 universities directly because of my translation project. Zirali sir said, I have completed translation in 23 languages. But since then, a lot of time has passed by. Now I have reached 40 languages, sir. Now we have gone into the foreign languages. like Persian, Arabic, Japanese, Germany, French, Spanish, and many more are in the anvil. I think by the divine grace of Gurudev Basavanna, I'll be able to translate vachanas of these great saints of the 12th century into all languages of the world utilizing artificial intelligence. The day is not far away. I've approached it systematically. I have professionals attached with me. We will finish by 26 Jan. My mission is simple. Before I close my eyes, I should complete my mission. That's all, nothing big. I am elated because Gurudev was born in Jamkhandi, which incidentally is my birthplace also. Though I cannot compare with Gurudev, my father also hails from Jamkhandi, and the connect and the Gurudev Mandir which he inaugurated along with Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. I thank Zirali sir for inviting me. I told him, please avoid me. I am not a great person like all of you, because my field of understanding education is engineering. I am an automobile engineer from Bangalore University. Of course, got my first rank in my university. That is secondary. That is simply secondary. Primarily, I started my business, some profession like your professors. My business was selling motorcycles. Simple. Now I am holding the Basava philosophy as my subject. I should reach the world. Similarly, in business also, I got the world record in selling Yamaha motorcycles. I was honored in Japan. See, that's my mission. Whatever I take, for example, the students who are sitting over here, since 2008, I was just referring to the Vice Chancellor. I have conducted personality development programs for over 25 lakh students, one-to-one, based on spirituality. Therefore, I know what the children want, what are their issues in their mind, the current scenario. Even if you hold a newspaper, what is it that they will learn? Even put on the television, what will you be able to watch? Especially the children. Is this the world we are passing through? Horrifying, sir. And just now, respected sir who gave the keynote, this is just not for India. The whole globe will have to understand what Gurudev has told us, how to set this universe in right track. Especially in India, we have to start divisions, political scenario, the way in which the country is going. ನನಗೆ ಬಹಳ ನೋವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಕಣ್ಣು ಮುಚ್ಚೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ದೇಶ, ದಿಸ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಗುರುದೇವ್ ಅವರ ಕನಸಿನ ಭಾರತ ಆಗಬೇಕಿದು, ಕನಸಿನ ಭಾರತ ಆಗಬೇಕು. Otherwise, what is the use? ACPR talks about Gurudev, Basava Samiti talks about Basavanna and all other philosophers. Is at the end of the day, yes, to bring in that consciousness, that talk is required. But finally, how do we implement? The Vice Chancellor requesting that the philosophy should be introduced. We should talk to the Prime Minister of India that ensure that entire country should go through this process of philosophy. We have to go through. And he will give his ear. Such a wonderful person whom I have met many occasions. If all of us together, the great people like all of you, join together, make a representation to the government. Gurudev has led us to this subject, which it is something interesting, and the Vice Chancellor of the Karnataka University, DC Paute sir, almost many lectures they recorded. Finally, the last 6-7 lectures they could not record. He very clearly says when Gurudev was invited to Karnataka University, with such an eminent scholar and philosopher in our midst, we of the Karnataka University could hardly resist the temptation of requesting Dr. Ranade to write a book on mysticism in Kannada literature, because we are in Karnataka. You are from different parts of the state, but we would be more conscious about Kannada literature, the Kannada literature and the saints of this part of the country. On the lines he had already done on mysticism in Marathi and Hindi literature. So the university invited him to deliver a course of 20 lectures on mysticism in Karnataka, which could be later on published by the university in the form of a book. To that he readily agreed. Imagine Ranade, Gurudev agreeing to address 20 lectures there, not one or two. He would give a course 3 or 4 lectures every year, not once in a month or twice in a month. Every year 3 to 4 lectures. And during his lectures, the practice what he had is 4 to 5 philosophical poems he used to first. That process is very interesting. Why did he choose the poems to be recited by him? ಇದು ಗಂಭೀರವಾಗಿ ನೋಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. We have to think why. Ranade, Gurudev, he starts his lectures by 5 poems, all mystical, philosophical poems. So I thought this is a guidance for me to start today's talk. Time is also short because we have a very senior speaker to address us immediately after me, Dr. Aditya Abhyankar sir. I won't take your time. Within 5 minutes I'll finish off. So that is the time given. So following the pattern of Gurudev, I thought let me pick up 4 or 5 poems from Karnataka. And this is purely on philosophy, not otherwise. Many poems may be there on the realization, but the crux of this spirituality, how the 12th century saints could evolve. Very, very interesting, sir. I think you might not have gone through the studies. ಆ ವಚನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮಿಕತೆಯನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಹೋದಾಗ now we are the seekers of God here, all of us. We the seekers of God, how this 12th century Sharanas took, how did they guide us? ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನನಗೆ Gurudev, what he has advised us, very fascinating it is. Humanity is the religion. Can we not take this subject to the world? Humanity is the religion. But implementing that, ACPR, you have really guided us as to how it could be implemented, but it has to be implemented. Not easy. I do know it is not easy. But all of us together, especially the galaxy of the knowledgeable people who are here, if you put together, sit for a discussion and a meet of the same meeting, how do we implement this Gurudev's vision and the mission? Both the mission and the vision of Gurudev, if all of you can just talk on that subject, understand, crystallize and move the government of India, at least in our country and of course in our state, that could be a simpler way of handling it. But idondu Zirali avare ನೀವು ಏನಾದರೂ ಮಾಡಿ, we will cooperate with you because I am on an academic line only, but I am going through the Basava philosophy, which is equally universal. There is nothing limited to Kannada literature or anything. ಈಗ ಗುರುದೇವ್ ಅವರ ಪದ್ಧತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 3-4 ಅದನ್ನು ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕಮ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ವೇ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಸ್. ಈಗ ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮಿಕತೆಯನ್ನು ಅವರ ಪುಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ, ಗುರುದೇವ್ ಅವರ ಪುಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ, ಗಾಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಬೋತ್ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಕಾಸಮ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಕಾಸಮ್. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಗುರುದೇವ್ಸ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್. God as both macrocosm and a microcosm. Fascinating this is. Immediately the moment I think of God, we think of a macro. But subsuming it into micro is the metaphysics through which we have to practice and do it. Oh. I may come down there also. ಇದು ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ರೋ ಟು ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಬಸವಣ್ಣನವರ ಒಂದು ವಚನ ತಗೊಳ್ತೇನೆ, ಕನ್ನಡ ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ ದೇರ್ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್. ಜಗದಗಲ ಮುಗಿಲಗಲ ಮಿಗೆಯಗಲ ನಿಮ್ಮಗಲ. If I ask God, or I'm sitting before the God, I'm questioning him, what is your width, God? What is your expanse? ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ಜಗದಗಲ ಮುಗಿಲಗಲ ಮಿಗೆಯಗಲ ನಿಮ್ಮಗಲ. ಪಾತಾಳದಿಂದ ತತ್ತ ನಿನ್ನ ಶ್ರೀಚರಣ, ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಾಂಡದಿಂದ ತತ್ತ ನಿನ್ನ ಶ್ರೀಮುಕುಟ. ಆಯಿತು, ಅವ್ರ ಶ್ರೀಮುಕುಟ ಆಯಿತು, ಪಾದ ಆಯಿತು. ದ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಗಮ್ಯ, ಅಗೋಚರ, ಅಪ್ರತಿಮ, ಅಪ್ರಮಾಣ. That is you, God. ಅಗಮ್ಯ, ಅಗೋಚರ, ಅಪ್ರತಿಮ, ಅಪ್ರಮಾಣ ಲಿಂಗವೇ ಎನ್ನ ಕರಸ್ಥಳಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು ಚುಳುಕಾದಿರಯ್ಯ. ಕರಸ್ಥಳ, ಮನಸ್ಥಳ, ಭಾವಸ್ಥಳ. ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ವಾಟ್ ಡಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಮೀನ್? ಗುರುದೇವ್ ಸೇಸ್ God has both macro and micro. That macro level divinity, when subsumes into you, into each of us, whether you know it or not, subsumed into you as micro and an invisible form. ಎಂಥ ಅದ್ಭುತ ಇದು! ಗುರುದೇವರು ಹೇಳಿದ ಮಾತನ್ನೇ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡದ ವಚನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. O Lord, thy holy feet pervade and reach the wide world, the wide firmament and the infinite space. As vast as thee, thy feet descend deeper than the great abysmal deep. The crown extends beyond the cosmos. O Lord, peerless, surpassed, unseen, yet art thou a tiny seed on my palm, O Kudala Sangama. ಹೀಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ರೋ ಟು ಮೈಕ್ರೋ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬಸವಣ್ಣ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ವಚನದಲ್ಲಿ ಮನೆಯೊಳಗೆ ಮನೆಯೊಡೆಯನಿದ್ದಾನು ಇಲ್ಲವೋ, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ? ಮನೆಯೊಳಗೆ ಮನೆಯೊಡೆಯನಿದ್ದಾನು ಇಲ್ಲವೋ, ಹೊಸ್ತಿಲಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಲ್ಲು ಹುಟ್ಟಿ, ಇನ್ ದ ಥ್ರೆಶೋಲ್ಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಹೋಮ್ ಗ್ರಾಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಗ್ರೋನ್. ಹೊಸ್ತಿಲಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಲ್ಲು ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ರಜ ತುಂಬಿ, ರಜ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಕಸ, ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ರಜ ತುಂಬಿ. ಬಸವಣ್ಣ ಸೇಸ್ ಮನೆಯೊಳಗೆ ಮನೆಯೊಡೆಯ ಇದ್ದಾನೋ ಇಲ್ಲವೋ. Then he goes to the inner conscience. The vachanas are like that, sir. External, internal, finally concluding and giving a final result. That is the way in which they have written the vachanas. The philosophy is taught to us in that fashion. ತನುವಿನೊಳಗೆ, ತನುವಿನ ಬಾಡಿ, ತನುವಿನೊಳಗೆ ಹುಸಿ ತುಂಬಿ. ವಿ ವುಡ್ ಬಿ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನಿಂಗ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್. ತನುವಿನೊಳಗೆ ಹುಸಿ ತುಂಬಿ, ಮನದೊಳಗೆ ವಿಷಯ ತುಂಬಿ, ಮನದೊಳಗೆ ವಿಷಯ ತುಂಬಿ, ಮನದೊಳಗೆ ಮನದೊಡೆಯ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕೂಡಲ ಸಂಗಮ. That microcosm which is part and parcel of your body in the name of spirit. We always think between the mind and the body, and we don't never think about the spirit. This program is for that. Body, the mind and the spirit. We all of us know, we continuously discuss with our mind. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತರು ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಏನೇನು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತೀರೋ ನೀವು. Who knows? We never think of the spirit. ಈಗ ಅಣ್ಣವರು ಅದ್ಭುತವಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಧ್ಯಾನ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಆ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಟ್ ಹತ್ರ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದರು. He wanted us to be with the spirit. Whatever is the methodology, he adapted. ಎಷ್ಟು ನಾವು ಸುಂದರವಾಗಿ ಸೈಲೆಂಟಾಗಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ವಿ. If that happens to you, instead of talking to your mind, start talking to your spirit. ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ನೀನೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. You start talking to your spirit and that becomes a practice. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದ್ಭುತವಾಗಿ ದೇವರನ್ನು ನಾವು ಹೊರಗೆ ತೋರಿಸಲ್ಲ. ಆಗಲೇ ಅಣ್ಣವರು he said about the Advait philosophy. ತನ್ನ ತಾನರಿತು, I should know myself. ತನ್ನ ತಾನರಿತು ತಾನಾರೆಂದು ತಿಳಿದಡೆ, if I know myself, ತನ್ನ ತಾನರಿತು ತಾನಾರೆಂದು ತಿಳಿದಡೆ ತಾನೇ ದೇವನೋಡ. What a statement it is. We are the seekers of the God, but the God is sitting within you in your mind in an indivisible form. Seek Him through the meditation process, what Gurudev has suggested. We might not be practicing the way in which he has guided us, but ACPR has to guide all of us. I always think, after translating 23 languages, I straight went to the Prime Minister. Why not? He may give me an appointment, he may not give me an appointment. I am not a politician. Fortunately, the basis, the background is good. My father was the President of India. But the only President of India from Karnataka till 77 years of independence, only President. But the only President in the country to wear vibhuti, which was the traditional practice which we passed through for spirituality. Only character. He was never bothered about it. Somebody will say he is from this community. No, he was not concerned. He was concerned about the spirit within him. If he is doing puja, he is doing for the spirit, not to show it to the world. That is the practice which he adopted and he continued. ಹೀಗೆ ನಾವು ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮವನ್ನು ಈಗ I mentioned about Jagadagala. One more vachana and I think my time is up. ಈಗ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಚುವಾಲಿಟಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಹುಡುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇಂಥದ್ದೊಂದು ACPR has conducted a national conference. Not easy. I do know it is a very tough job. Convincing the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Not at all easy. Reaching them is also difficult. I wish they were here. I would have suggested them. We all will come and meet you first. Of course, you have supported us. Then further support us. To make philosophy part and parcel of the Indian education in total. If country could be saved, if Gandhi could get the freedom, we all should give a realization to the entire country of 140 crore people. There is a solution given by Gurudev. We should start believing it. We should start practicing it. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಒಂದು ವಚನ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸುಂದರವಾಗಿದೆ. ಎತ್ತೆತ್ತ ನೋಡಿದಳತ್ತತ್ತ ನೀನೇ ದೇವ. Where will you search for the spirit? ಎತ್ತೆತ್ತ ನೋಡಿದಳತ್ತತ್ತ ನೀನೇ ದೇವ, ಸಕಲ ವಿಸ್ತಾರದ ರೂಹು ನೀನೇ ದೇವ. ವಿಶ್ವತಃ ಚಕ್ಷು ನೀನೇ ದೇವ, ವಿಶ್ವತೋ ಬಾಹು ನೀನೇ ದೇವ, ವಿಶ್ವತೋ ಮುಖ ನೀನೇ ದೇವ, ವಿಶ್ವತಃ ಪಾದ ನೀನೇ ದೇವ, ಕೂಡಲ ಸಂಗಮ ದೇವ. The spirit everywhere, and especially subsumed form in an invisible. It is within you. First you understand. Spend time. You chat, my friends. Do you know what is the modern way of chatting? Start chatting with the spirit. ಸಣ್ಣ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇವತ್ತಿಂದ. In your free time, sitting wherever you may be traveling in a bus, wherever it is, start chatting with your spirit, and Gurudev's mission will be successful, and I am sure we will have to work for that. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಗುರುದೇವ್ ಅವರ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸಂತೋಷ ಪಡೋದಲ್ಲ. Just remembering one thing, sir. When I conducted the dedication program for my 23 national languages, I requested the Prime Minister to join, and he came down to Vigyan Bhavan. Though he gave me 20 minutes, he sat with me for 2 hours. Because it is a subject of spirit. I follow only that, sir. Though I am an engineer, though I am a world record holder, no, I am on this subject now. Don't shy away from that. Even Gurudev, I should thank our Zirali sir. You sent this book, you sent another book. I said, please avoid me, such professors and all seniors are there. Let me. Even last week I said I may not come. ಇಷ್ಟು ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಜ್ಞಾನಿಗಳ ಎದುರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಏನೇನೋ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಅರ್ಥವಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಹೋಗಬಾರದು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಹಿ ಇನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆಡ್, ಯು ಆರ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್, ಸಿಂಪಲ್, ಯು ಆರ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಸೋ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಟು ಹಿಮ್, ನಾಟ್ ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಲೀಗಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್. ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆಯಾಗಿ ಅವಾಗ ಮೋದಿಯವರು ಬಂದಾಗ ನನಗೆ 7 minutes ಟೈಮ್, ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಇಡದೆ. ವೆನ್ ಪ್ರೈಮ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಪ್ ಹಿಯರ್ 3 minutes, 7 minutes like that. It was very hard for me to express that. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, all of you know. I praised him. You have come out with a new proposal for the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Basavanna talks about this Abhiyan in the entire world. ಕಳಬೇಡ, ಕೊಲಬೇಡ, ಹುಸಿಯ ನುಡಿಯಲು ಬೇಡ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತಾನೆ. ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಇದೇ ಅಂತರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ, ಇದೇ ಬಹಿರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ, ಇದೇ ಕೂಡಲ ಸಂಗಮ ದೇವನ ಒಲಿಸುವ ಪರಿ. ಕೂಡಲ ಸಂಗಮ ದೇವ is nothing but your spirit. Each one of you have your own spirit. You can name it the name you want. ದೇವನೊಬ್ಬ ನಾಮ ಹಲವು. Then I said, sir, जब तक बसवन्ना बोल रहे हैं, I was to speak to him in Hindi for a comfort. बसवन्ना बोल रहे हैं, जब अंतरंग शुद्धि, one is अंतरंग. Just now, Vice Chancellor tried to take us to अंतरंग. We were ಬಹಿರಂಗ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಇದೇ ಅಂತರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ ಒಂದು, ಇದೇ ಬಹಿರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ ಎರಡೂ ಕೂಡಲು. ಅಂತರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ ಮತ್ತು ಬಹಿರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ ಎರಡೂ ಕೂಡಲು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಸಂಗಮ. ಹೌದಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ? ಎರಡೂ ಕೂಡಲು ಆಗುವ ಸಂಗಮವೇ ದೇವ, ಕೂಡಲ ಸಂಗಮ ದೇವ. भारत स्वच्छ भारत होने के लिए हर भारतीय का अंतरंग शुद्ध होना ही चाहिए. जब तक अंतरंग शुद्ध नहीं होती है तब तक भारत कभी भी शुद्ध नहीं होता है. That is what our Gurudev is telling. What else he is telling? Just coming for this seminar and forgetting after to. Sir said, note down, note down, note down. That reminds us. ಹೀಗೆ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿ ಸ್ವಚ್ಛ ಭಾರತ ಅಭಿಯಾನ್ बसवन्ना के दृष्टिकोण से अपूर्ण है सर. He started laughing and he clapped. We have to make them understand, sir. They are the head of the nation. They can change the policy. So I thank ACPR for having given me this opportunity to address all of you, especially the scholars, the distinguished scholars, the esteemed delegates. And finally I am saying, sir, respected chairperson, thank you very much.
तद्दिव्यमोवेन धाम सारस्वतमुपास्महे यत्प्रसादात् प्रलीयन्ते मोहान्धतमसच्छटाः. जय गुरुदेव, जय गुरुदेव. Thank you. It's a matter of great honor and privilege to share the dais with such luminaries in the field. And it was so wonderful to listen to Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Thyagraja sir. Great keynote from Panneerselvam sir. And what we heard from Jatti ji is a lifetime experience. Thank you so very much, sir. And we are going to listen from Balaganapati ji in the afternoon session. And I would like to join all my previous speakers in thanking ACPR, Honorable Poddar ji, Honorable Zirali sir, Honorable Ashwini ma'am, everyone for putting this 3-day national conference together, creating such a beautiful platform for all of us and giving me this opportunity to be present amongst such an august gathering. I am the last person standing between you and lunch probably. So I have been given the difficult task to be the last speaker, and so I will keep it very short and simple. You can forget about everything that was said about me, but I take pride in telling you one thing, that I am sadhak at Nimbaya. And I was so fortunate that I got the naam at Nimbaya, and that's why I'm just a student who is trying to explore the gigantic, multifaceted personality of Gurudev Ranade. And there is one very interesting pointer that I would like to bring out in today's talk, and I would like all of us to ponder over it, and then you can tell me whether you agree with me or not. We all know Gurudev Ranade. I hope you are able to see the screen. We all know Gurudev Ranade is a distinguished Indian philosopher. He is very different than conventional Indian philosophers. A modern mystic and an academician who famously synthesized Western rational thought with Indian spiritual tradition. And that's why we all know him as modern mystic. However, there is rationalism in his mysticism. His pathway to God is truly exemplary, and his writings on the saints from Kannada tradition, from Marathi tradition, from the North Indian tradition is also truly exemplary. And along with all of this, his academic leadership at Allahabad University, such a multifaceted personality. What is truly striking about Gurudev Ranade is his spiritual legacy, the Nimbargi Sampradaya. From the Kad Siddhas to Bhau Maharaj Umdikar and his Guru Bandhu, the whole legacy is so rich, so different. And Gurudev Ranade was able to add his own dimension to this tradition. I fully agree with the keynote speaker that you cannot have flexibility in orthodox systems, but the beauty about tradition is there cannot be tradition without addition. And Gurudev Ranade was able to make such a unique contribution of his own self, and that enriched his Guru Parampara in its truest possible sense. In his notable works, one that truly stands out is a constructive survey of Upanishadic philosophy. And that is something that I would like to talk on for next 10 odd minutes. Because this book is the work that really gave him the central stage in the world philosophy. He was completely isolated for a couple of years. He was detached fully from the rest of the world, and it's the culmination of his very deep philosophical thinking that resulted into this constructive survey of Upanishadic philosophy. We all know that this book got published in 1926 and ACPR was formed in 1925. So probably this was the very first publication after forming of ACPR. And Gurudev emphasizes on the synthetic method. He uses synthetic approach to show how the ideas can be very neatly integrated to form a coherent system across different branches of philosophy. So this is the central theme of this work. One very important thing that happened because of this work is Indian philosophy was analyzed using Western methodology. This is a very unique contribution. All the previous commentaries, as mentioned by Professor Panneerselvam sir, and the acharyas are called acharyas when they write commentaries and treatises on Prasthanatrayi. But these commentaries were written by Indian acharyas for the Indian audience, and that's why, although they were translated, it was not well understood probably, and that's why there was a Western bias. And the countering of this Western bias happened because of the contribution given by Gurudev Ranade. He wrote it specifically to rebut the then common Western perception that Indian philosophy was purely pessimistic or otherworldly. And we know the definition of dharma that is given to us is yato abhyudaya nishreyasa siddhihi sadharma. So it talks about a combination of nivritti and pravritti. It is not only nivritti, and that was an important message that was given by Gurudev Ranade. The thematic structure was also very, very interesting. In the thematic structure, the background of speculation and the Upanishadic cosmology, the psychological reflections, and the roots of later philosophies all stemmed from Upanishadic philosophy. This was very neatly brought out by Gurudev Ranade. However, I would like to very quickly and briefly talk about 5 very interesting pointers that were very neatly brought down by Gurudev Ranade. And the very first one is the Upanishads as a philosophy of discovery rather than doctrine. And this is so much very important. The philosophy which is propagated in the form of doctrine is very orthodox, it lacks flexibility, and Gurudev was very open about mentioning that Upanishadic philosophy is in the form of dialogues. For example, Chandogya Upanishad is a dialogue between Shvetaketu and Uddalakaruni, and there are so many dialogues between Guru and Shishya in all the Upanishads. Gurudev brought out this very important point. In fact, if you look at our literature, Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjun, and because very interesting questions were raised by Arjun, Lord Krishna was able to give even more beautiful and profound answers. And in Bhagavad Gita it says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. To acquire knowledge, the methodology given is the interesting searching questions should be asked by the disciple, and then the Guru can give out very interesting answers. Ashtavakra Gita is a dialogue between sage Ashtavakra and Janak, King Janak. So all the scriptures that we have, they are in the form of dialogue. If you are aware of Dasabodh, which was written by Samartha Ramdas Swami in Marathi, towards the end of every chapter, it says, Iti Guru Shishya Samvade. So it's a samvad, it's a dialogue between Guru and Shishya. And this is so much very important. This is the very genesis, this is the very reason why do we have research culture in our country, or we had research culture in our country. And then 1835 happened, Macaulay's Minute, and the British education was imposed upon us. And unfortunately, the art of asking interesting searching question, somewhere we lost it. And the modern academic structure that was entrusted upon us by the British, there is hardly any scope for asking interesting searching questions, and lot of emphasis is given on memorizing the things and reproducing it at the time of examination. And I want my audience to be with me, and so I will give just a couple of teasers, and you think and tell me whether you agree with me when I say that somewhere we have lost this art of asking searching questions which we had. And we had it because Jidnyasa and curiosity was the driving force. The first sutra in Brahma Sutra is Athato Brahma Jidnyasa, and in Purva Mimamsa it is Athato Dharma Jidnyasa. The first karika in Sankhya karika is Dukkhatraya Vigata Tadabhigatake Hetav Jidnyasa. So Jidnyasa and inquisitiveness and curiosity was the driving force, and that's exactly what Gurudev Ranade emphasizes over here. And in the modern era, we have lost this art to such an extent, I will just give a couple of teasers and tell me whether you agree with me or not. The moment we get up, we are interested in figuring out what time it is and what day and what date it is. So we look at the clock and we look at the calendar. And have you ever thought that we get the basic unit of keeping the time from nature? Quartz crystal, they oscillate with certain frequency. But then in 1 minute, why do we have 60 seconds? And in 1 hour, why do we have 60 minutes? What is so special about 60? Why not have 10 seconds or 100 seconds or 10 minutes? What is so special about 60? And when you look at calendar, don't you think that it's a logically illogical system that we are following? We are in the month of February and we stumble upon with odd number of days 28. If we are in leap year 29, is it not strange? For all other months 30 or 31. And I work in the field of machine learning, so we write algorithms which are iterative. And we say iteration after iteration, the algorithm marches on towards optimum solution. So there is this popular saying in English, they say march on towards something. They never say January on, do they? So let's play a game. Let March be the first month of our new calendar system, and then April, and then May. And as we continue, and as we are in the 7th month, do you know what is 7 in Sanskrit? It is Sapta, and that gives us September. And 8 is Ashta, leading us to October. 9 is Navam, leading us to November. And 10 is Dasham, leading us to December. And now February becomes the 12th and the last month. So don't you think that this makes a lot of sense to start the calendar by around March? And if you look at all conventional systems, they suggest us doing that. But somewhere in the modern era, we have lost this art of asking very interesting searching questions. And that's precisely what Gurudev Ranade says when he says that Upanishads are not the philosophy of doctrine, it is the philosophy of discovery. You have to ask questions, there should be dialogue between Guru and Shishya, and it's extremely important to preserve our tradition. Second interesting pointer that was made was, and I'm just trying to make sure, yeah. The second pointer is metaphysics rerouted in lived consciousness. So classical metaphysics often begins with the structure of reality and then situates the human subject within it. Gurudev Ranade was able to reverse this order very neatly, and in a very structured manner he was able to give us a very different framework altogether. And he was able to very neatly guide us from the experiencing self and then unfolding nature of ultimate reality. That's the very genesis, that's the very core when he says Nama Sadhana. That's what he essentially tells us. The Upanishads in his hands becomes the philosophy from within the experience rather than about an external cosmos. The third very interesting point is unity without erasure. He was able to integrate and he was able to form a neat democratization of various different thought processes, and very seamlessly, without any erasure, he was able to come up with a totalization. This integration was, that's why, very seamless. One very important thing is, this allowed him to avoid both naive monism and fragmented pluralism. And that's where Gurudev Ranade stands out truly, truly unique. The fourth very interesting pointer is liberation as cognitive clarity rather than metaphysical escape. This was very neatly also brought out during the keynote speech, and this interpretation transforms moksha into ethical, epistemic achievement rather than a metaphysical rupture. This is also a unique contribution of Gurudev Ranade. And the fifth very important point is philosophy as a cross-cultural practice than cultural possession. Every cult has its own egoism And Gurudev was able to truly keep all of that aside and create one integrated platform to bring every piece of philosophy that existed on this planet on and create a melting pot of all these different philosophies. So this point is extremely important. Perhaps Ranade's most enduring contribution. And he neither isolated Indian philosophy as culturally unique nor dissolves it into Western categories. And instead he treats philosophy as a shared human practice capable of multiple cultural articulation. The approach reframes universality itself. The way we understood universality before Gurudev Ranade and after Gurudev Ranade is entirely different in my opinion. Philosophy becomes universal not by abstraction or homogenization but by depth of engagement. And Gurudev Ranade thus establishes a methodological foundation for genuine intellectual dialogue, and that's why the tagline of ACPR is One God, One World, One Humanity. This was a very subtle way of doing the integration and bringing different philosophies on the same page. This is truly required in the current era. One last point and then I will stop. We are in the era of generative artificial intelligence systems. And if we just take a snapshot of what technology is capable of doing, the generative AI systems, they are capable of doing so many things which are translational, where you need to translate your knowledge from one domain to another. For example, writing a poem is extremely translational. You need to have good understanding of the language, you need to have command over vocabulary, you need to have good imaginative power, and if you are in a good mood, you can write a good poem. These artificial intelligence systems, they have started doing all of this. They can write poems, they can write manuscripts, they can do paintings, they can create music. And that's why we are at such a juncture where AI has invaded various walks of human life. The question then is, we can create intelligence artificially, but can we have artificial consciousness? And the answer of this question we all know, and that's why, in my opinion, philosophy of Gurudev Ranade is even more important in the modern era. We know DeepSeek, we know the very unfortunate parts of the current technology, and that's why it has to be used for constructive purposes, and that's where Gurudev Ranade truly guides us. One another interesting aspect of Gurudev Ranade is his similarity with Lokmanya Tilak, and this part rarely gets studied, this part rarely gets addressed. And if you think about it, so many commonalities between Lokmanya Tilak and Gurudev Ranade. They both were able to write their scripts in English. Lokmanya Tilak wrote two very interesting books. One was in Marathi, it's called Mrugashirsha. In English, it's called the Orion. And he was able to tell us how in Vedic times the start of the year was documented. A very interesting piece of work, because of which one of the Vedangs was very neatly understood by the Western world. Same is the case with Gurudev Ranade. He was able to pen down his thoughts mostly in English, and that's why the Western world was able to understand Indian philosophical gems so neatly and nicely. They have so many commonalities. They both had to resign, unfortunately, from Deccan Education Society, but because of that, they did not remain restricted only to one institute, and they truly became universal. Professor Ranade became Gurudev, and Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he became Lokamanya, and that's why they were able to improve their horizon, scope of work to such an extent that they truly became universal, exemplary personalities. So Gurudev Ranade's legacy is not merely interpretative but methodological, a disciplined way of thinking that bridges experience and reason, tradition, modernity India and the world. I truly wish at the lotus feet of the Almighty that all of us be blessed, all of us follow the path that's shown to us by Gurudev Ranade, and through our own experiential learning. There is a difference between experience and self-experience. So through our own experiential learning, may all of us get elevated to truly understand the writings, the preachings of Gurudev Ranade. Thank you so very much for your kind attention. I think I have finished everything in time. And once again, a big thank you to ACPR. Gurudev Ranade once said that my writings will be understood 100 years after they are written. And ACPR very recently celebrated centenary year, so hopefully we'll start understanding the writings and the preachings of Gurudev Ranade. A big thank you to Advocate Zirali sir, and thank you for this opportunity. Jai Gurudev.